Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you all know, this channel is meant to provide you guidance on your coursework and assignments for both high school and graduate level students. So, today our focus is on the topic of globalization, and I hope you will find this video useful. So stay tuned, and if you have any comments or suggestions, do not forget to comment below or get in touch with me via WhatsApp or email, which you can find at the description. The question that we're going to focus in this assignment is: to what extent is globalization a consequence of social changes occurring locally? So when you understand this question, first of all, the question is focusing on the topic of globalization, and you need to see whether social changes that are taking place within a country is actually the reason behind globalization. So that's what we are to focus in this assignment. So whenever you get a question like this, once you identify the key requirements, you need to put in your answer outline in terms of introduction, the body, and the conclusion of your answer. The content that you include in all of these three depends on the number of marks allocated for the question in your examination, and also depending on the syllabus that you have to follow, and depending on certain requirements, like for example for high school students it's not compulsory to provide practical examples, but if you are writing this assignment for your graduate level exams, definitely referencing from your essential readings or practical examples would give you better application marks. So depending on the exam you are sitting, you will have to flex your assignment, but in general you need to focus on globalization, and you need to focus on whether it is a consequence of the social changes that happen within a country. And in this case, precisely, there should be the structural flow throughout introduction, the body, and the conclusion. When focusing on the introduction of your answer, you need to focus on the key concepts or the background relevant to the question. So in this case, we're supposed to focus on globalization and the social changes that occur locally. And next, we need to provide a brief outline of what we will be discussing in the body of your answer, or rather we can call it an opening of the body. So these are the main things to focus in the introduction of your essay. A sample introduction for this question would be: as Massioni's J&K Plummer 2008 states, over the past decade or so, the ideas of the global and globalization have become widespread in public debate and discussion. Thereby, globalization has been given various views and definitions by sociologists like Giddens, Held, Beck. Of all, in this essay, our concentration will be upon Waters' 2001 definition, which is: globalization is a social process in which the constraints of geography on economic, political, social, and cultural arrangements recede, in which people become increasingly aware that they are receding, and in which people act accordingly. So this essay is concerned with the question on up to what extent is globalization a consequence of social changes occurring locally. The essay discusses this based on the views of different sociologists like Weber, Marx, Ome, and Sclair. Once we have written our introduction, we need to move on to the body of our answer. So as outlined in the introduction, we're going to answer the question by focusing on the views of different sociologists about globalization. In this, you can figure out that there are certain sociologists who have mentioned that it is because of the social changes that globalization is actually happening, whereas some others have other claims. So in the body of our answer, we need to focus on this. So we're gonna discuss mainly on the views mentioned on the slide: Weber, Marx, Clare, Waters, Durkheim's, Ome's, and Michael Mann's views. So just for you to have a clear picture, I'm gonna show you a sample of the body of the answer in this case. Weber was an interpretivist sociologist, therefore he tried to attach meaning to everything and analyze things as social facts. Therefore, for him, human motivation and ideas were the major forces behind social change, and in concern to this view, globalization is the aggregate of changes, behaviors, actions that have taken place in different societies. Thereby, on the view of Weber, we could argue with the fact that globalization is a consequence of social changes occurring locally. However, Marx looked at social changes in a different way. He considered conflicts to be the motor of history, as stated in Cuff, Sherrock, and Francis 2004. This is why he's considered as a conflict theorist. So according to him, globalization is not a consequence of social changes, rather it is an economic result. And Marx considers this result in terms of capitalism. According to Marx, capitalism is a system of commodity production where everything is produced for sale in the market. Hence, labor exploitation occurs in capitalist societies. Based on his view, globalization is a development of capitalism with great technological and social changes. So, this view has been put forward by Sclair, and the focus of Leslie Sclair's work was the changing nature of capitalism. He argues that from the 1960s onwards, capitalism has transformed itself from an international system to a global system, and he considered that this was mainly a result of transnational corporations, transnational capitalist class, and the culture, the ideology of consumerism. So, on his view, globalization is once again a result of social, economic, and cultural changes. Moreover, Waters 2001 states that for Marx, globalization caused an enormous increase in the power of the capitalist class because it opened up new markets for it. For instance, the discovery of America and the opening of navigation routes to Asia established a world market for modern industry. This led the bourgeoisie to rush into this opportunity. But Marx held that this development is cultural and economic rather than being social. Furthermore, Durkheim looked at social changes in terms of mechanical and social solidarity. Thereby, for him, globalization was not merely a social consequence, rather, it was a result of cultural changes. So he claimed that globalization is a result of differentiation and culture. That is, due to globalization, institutions of societies become specialized. Commitment to such institutions as the state weakens and the national culture weakens. Whereas Ome suggests that globalization represents a fundamental change to the economy, politics, and culture. He argues that globalization has led us to a borderless world. By this, he means that we live in a world where the flows of information and economic activity increasingly occur across the borders of nation states, and nation states are increasingly powerless to control such flows. Based on this, globalization is a result of a combination of changes. Furthermore, Michael Mann, who was a transformationalist, also argued that globalization is a result of several changes. These changes include the changes in capitalism, the rise of identity politics, weakening of the power of nation states. Also, Barber held a similar view on globalization. He presented his view through the concept of Macworld. And the concept of Macworld says that globalization is where consumer goods, especially US branded goods, are spread out. He considers this as a spread of US culture in terms of the spread of US language, tastes, etc. He also identifies that globalization has been caused due to technological changes. That is, globalization can be considered as a result of integration of national economies into the global marketplace. And this has taken place alongside the development of ICT. Whereas Missioni's J&K Plummer 2008 hold that globalization is a result of a combination of changes taking place in economic, political, cultural, etc. spheres. It argues that globalization has shifted the borders of economic transactions, that has expanded communications into global networks and has fostered a global culture and has developed new forms of international governance. Whereas Waters 2001 also holds a similar view, and as mentioned at the beginning of the essay, based on the definition of globalization given by Waters 2001, it's quite clear that globalization is a result of economic, political, social, and cultural changes which could be occurring locally. Having understood how to write the body of the answer, now I'm gonna guide you through the conclusion. So, as for the conclusion, you need to give a gist of what you've discussed in your answer, or rather, conclusive summary. And in this case, you need to go back to the question once again, as the question is asking to what extent is globalization a consequence of social changes occurring locally. You need to clearly mention whether globalization is actually a result of these social changes. This conclusive opinion should be mentioned in your conclusion. That's when it becomes a strong conclusion. So, with that guidance being given, I'm gonna show you a sample conclusion that you could write here in order to score the best one. So, for the conclusion, you may start like this. Based on the discussion on globalization within this essay, it's clear that various sociologists and theorists hold different views on globalization. Amongst these views, a minority supports to the fact that globalization is a consequence of social changes occurring locally, whereas a majority, inclusive of Sclair, Marx, Ome, argues that to a greater extent globalization is a consequence of political, economic, and cultural changes occurring locally, which means definitely these are all social changes. So, with that, I hope you have now got an idea on how to answer a question like this that will be tested on the topic of globalization. And this kind of question can generally be tested with subjects like sociology, international development, development economics, or more of in high school if you're doing subjects like humanities or anything relevant to social sciences. So, with that, if you got anything out of the video, I hope you would share this knowledge with your colleagues by sharing the link. Also, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so that you will receive notifications of more of such videos being posted on how to answer your assignments and videos on topics that will be helpful for your coursework if you will be taking commerce related subjects in your studies. So, with that, I will also be looking forward to your feedback, and if you do have any questions, any concerns, you're welcome to comment below. And also, if you would love to have some individual feedback on your assignments, or if you need any assistance on your coursework or assignments, and as for teachers, if you need any support in marking your assignments, you can get in touch with me via WhatsApp or email in the mail address and WhatsApp number that is displayed on the screen right now. So then, thanks for watching and catch you up next time with another video. Have a good day.